This is the Upper Yough in Maryland. We're taking out behind Wilderness Voyagers in Friendsville. Parking is across the street on the other side of that white building there, putting in at the Sang Run River access. Right after you put in, you'll go under a bridge. On the backside of this abutment, there's a foot gauge. That's the gauge that people are normally talking about when they talk about levels on the Upper Yough. The river starts with a couple miles of pretty flat water. Then you got these rocks on the right where people gear up sometimes. And then you're going into the warm-up rapids. At the end of this first straightaway, there's a rapid called Gap Falls. Right above the rapid, there's these two surf holes here. I really like to stop and surf them most of the time. They're pretty fun. The rapid itself, there's like a steep chute way over on river left into a hole. There's a fun eddy catch that I really like in here. If you just try to drive straight into the eddy, it's like really shallow. You won't be able to get your paddle strokes in. The way I like to get in there is just using this wave right here to kind of help push me in there. The rest of the warm-up rapids are pretty fun too. They're pretty technical, but it's moving slowly enough that you've got time to figure out what's going on in there. I'm going to show some snippets of some moves I like and some surf spots, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the warm-up rapids. A couple things about the dam releases on the Yough. First of all, the dam is not on the Youghiogheny River, it's on a tributary, so you're getting the dam release plus whatever the natural flow is. In the dry part of the summer, the natural flow gets pretty close to zero, so you're basically just seeing the dam release, but if it's been wet, especially in the spring, you can see a lot more water. Sometimes they'll cancel or reduce the dam release if the natural flow is high enough, but you can get a lot more water than just the dam release. Also, it takes a couple hours, I think, from when they start releasing for the water to get to the put-in, and the water moves downstream very slowly. It takes, at really low flows like this, it takes about 6 hours and 20 minutes for the water to get to Friendsville, so it's really easy to catch up with the front of the dam release. I like to put on pretty late if I'm on my own schedule, just so that doesn't happen. I like to put on about an hour and 20 minutes after they turn the water off. An hour and 20 minutes, it is starting to drop at the put-in just a tiny bit, but by the time I get to Gap Falls, I feel like I have the same flow as if I'd put on an hour earlier. I have put on close to 2 hours after they turned the water off before, and I did catch up with the release, but it was not fun. The put-in, it looked like there was no release at all, and I was just paddling really hard through flat pools, scraping over rocks because there's no current, they didn't make any ripples, but by the time I got to Gap Falls, I'd say I had maybe 75% of the release, and it only got better from there. So, if you do get there that late and you really want it, it is worth it to chase it. A couple reasons you could put on the earlier side. If you just want to give yourself some extra time, then it makes sense. Also, Roger says that there's actually a little more water if you're closer to the front of the bubble, and looking at the data from where the water gets to Friendsville, it does back him up on that. I'm not sure what that curve would look like farther upstream, but at least down at Friendsville, you are getting more water at the front of the bubble. One final note about all that release timing is that you cannot get a second lap in on a 3-hour dam release. By the time you can paddle into Friendsville, the water has been off for several hours. That's the end of the warm-ups. When you see this pool right here, you're right above Bastard Falls. The crux of Bastard Falls starts with this ledge right here. There's a few different lines you can run. You can punch it in the center like that. There's a far right boof you can run. I like a far left boof. I'll show that in a moment. And then once you run that ledge, you have a few different options of where to go. This right line is probably the easiest line. In a raft, it's still pretty technical, but it's just moving a lot slower if you stay right than if you try to run it down the left. Here's what it looks like from inside the kayak. You're entering in the far left channel, and then at the beginning you're just kind of picking your way down, pretty slow moving, a couple ledges in there, but nothing to really worry about. Then come through this next gap here is where you have to line up for that main ledge that I was showing, and this is the boof on the far left that I like, right here, super fun line. After that, you can go wherever you want, basically. You can cut over to the right there if you want to, you can move left here. I like to get a little boof off this hump here, and then I go through this gap on the right, but I didn't really get it that good today. After that, the rapid lets up quite a bit. There is one more boof down at the bottom on the far right. It's hard to get it just right, and I feel like at these levels, it's probably not worth trying. Next rapid is Charlie's Choice. Just enter in the main channel here, and then you can see that raft is going to the far left line up there. In general, in this rapid, the left side, you got a lot more room for maneuvering. In this part of the rapid, I like this channel down the middle. I always bang into this rock on the right here going through that line, but I think Roger and Chuck make it look a lot smoother than I do. And then the next move, this spot in here, there's a move called the rooster tail that raft is about to take. I prefer a line, yeah, that's the rooster tail right there. I usually take this little slot over on the very far right here. It's pretty fun. Just coming through here, you just want to make sure you stay left in that little gap there. But yeah, it's a cool line. Rooster tail's a fun line too. I do take that one sometimes. You just kind of drive into it with some hard right-hand angle, and I boof it right there, and yeah, it's pretty fun. After that section, there's a few different lines you can take. Again, you got a lot more room if you go left. I almost always run this line right here. This tree is in here now, but you can still duck under it. And then I take, you can take pretty much any of these slots. I take this one here. The one farther to the right is scrapey at these water levels. And then just kind of come through the middle of these rocks, and I boof off that one right there. And yeah, that's my favorite line through Charlie's Choice. There's also this line here, which kind of crisscrosses the one I just showed you. Like, you see a kayaker running the line I showed you right there, and this one kind of cuts across it. I think this is a harder line in a raft, but in a kayak it's not really harder, and I feel like it doesn't flow as well, so I don't usually run that. After the rooster tail, if you make your way to the far left side of the river instead of taking those slots, there's a line over there that just gives you a lot more room to maneuver. I'd say it's probably the easiest route through Charlie's Choice. There's a fun attainment move at the bottom of Charlie's Choice as well, just trying to pop out of this eddy really hard and get around that rock on the attainer's left there. It's pretty fun. I like trying that one. Right after Charlie's Choice, there's a short little rapid called Snaggletooth. It kind of feels like it's still part of Charlie's Choice, actually, but most common thing is to enter on the far right here, and then the far left channel is easiest. This move in the center channel is really fun, where you kind of carve around that rock like that. You don't want to go that far right channel at the bottom. There's a sieve in there, and I've got a couple friends who have some pretty sketchy stories about taking rafts into that thing. Another line I like through this one is to start one slot further left and then kind of cut across the current a little bit to that same move in the middle where you like carve around that rock there. I think that's a pretty fun way to do it, but I don't know, it's a pretty little rapid. After this little chute right here, there's a rapid called Triple Drop. There's a few different ways you can enter it. You can go left of this rock island here. That's probably the easiest. The right side is really not much harder for a kayak. And then this slot in the middle is super fun. I really like running that slot. The main part of the rapid is just kind of fast and wavy, and if you have momentum and go down the middle, it turns out fine. I like entering it with this boof right here. As the water gets higher, that gets to be a nicer boof. And then if you stay left at the bottom, it's like a little bit smoother. The right side has this hole right here, so right after Triple Drop is the lead into National Falls. Right here, there's actually a kayaker running the big boof over on the river right-hand side, and a kayaker running the easier line on the river left side. It is a pretty big munchy hole, and the boof doesn't give you a huge margin for error, so a lot of people take that left line, but even when I was pretty new to kayaking, I preferred running the boof just because there is a big pool right after it, so even if you go for a big ride in there, even if you take a swim, it's not the worst place for that to happen. I felt like it was a good place to get used to stuff like that. Anyway, coming into the boof, right here, I'm just trying to be close to that rock on the right, but I don't want to make contact with it, and then a big boof right there. After National Falls, the next rapid is Tommy's Hole. That's the hole right there, that first one. My favorite line is this far left one here, that double boof that I just did there. It's a pretty fun line, tight margin. Another good line is to kind of make a left to right move in here. The trick is to come in real slow and then charge right. You don't want a lot of downstream momentum. But if you have too much downstream momentum and you do hit that hole, if your nose is pointed right, you can just surf out the side of it and it can help you make that move. Rafts can make that same move too. But there's a more common entrance for rafts way over on River Wright here. You can kind of take this channel and then sort of like ferry your way behind rocks over to the same spot. After Tommy's Hole, there's a rapid called Little Niagara. It's basically the same rapid actually, but I really like this boof at the top right here, and then you just kind of pick your way down the rest of it. It's pretty easy after that first ledge there. The next rapid is called Zinger. The standard line is down the far left channel here. It's mostly about like teeing up to all this stuff, like punching into it, making sure you don't get your edges caught in these seams. It's a fun little move. Doesn't really stand out on a river like this one, but it's a fun little rapid. Coming around this corner, this next part isn't that hard in a kayak, but there's a rap rock that rafts have to watch out for. This one coming up on the right there. You want to make sure you're moving left so you don't get wrapped around that rock right there. There's an easier line down the right-hand side. Although Zinger isn't outstandingly hard for a rapid on the upper Yough, so I don't know that most people are looking for a sneak line in this one, but you can get there through this slot right here. You can also turn left there and go back to the main line. I do that sometimes, but at these lower flows, you just scrape your paddle on the rocks a lot trying to do that, so I don't do that at these flows. And then, yeah, this right side is pretty chill. I think this might have been my first time running it, actually. I just wanted to check it out, but, yeah, fun little boof at the bottom there. The next rapid's called Trap Run. The standard entrance is where that raft is, but I saw this move one of my first times kayaking this river, and it looked pretty cool, so I usually do that. It does put you way over on the right. You have to kind of ferry your way back across and then ride this hole if you want to get to the surf hole on the far left side here. It's a pretty good surf hole, really nice for doing spins. It is shallow in there, and you're kind of going right in the rapid if you flip over, so you don't want to flip over in there, but it's a cool hole. And then for running the rapid, I just try to get right of this shallow stuff on my left there, and then I go left of that rock there. That's another one that has wrapped rafts before. I don't think too often, but left of it I think is easier than going right of it. After Trap Run, the river lets up a little bit. There's this slot over on the far right here. It's called 80 Grit. The only way I know through this slot is just kind of put my arms up so don't bang my elbows and land it kind of ugly. I usually don't go into that slot. There's, I feel like it's probably more fun just to go left of it like that. After some pretty easy stuff, you'll be coming into a rapid called Heinzerling. This is the lead-in here. A few different routes through Heinzerling. Easiest route is where that kayaker is going over there. That leads you to a long, straight corridor called the Rifle Barrel. Rifle Barrel is also a good option for rafts at higher water. At these flows, though, a raft would get stuck in there. I like to stay in the main current a little longer, and there's a ledge coming up here. These flows, rafts run this ledge like farther right than I'm going and then immediately move to the right. I like to kind of weave through these rocks here. I think there could be some pin potential in here, so you want to be careful. And then if you turn right here and go through this slot, they call that move the time warp. It's a really fun line. Coming up here, there's a few different options again. Oh, this eddy right here, this is where that rifle barrel line comes out. That paddler there is coming out of the rifle barrel. For the bottom part of the rapid, most common line is to ride left off that pillow like that. Take some finesse. You don't want to get pushed back into that seam there. There's also a sneak line farther over on the right. It's only good for kayaks at these flows, but I did a rafting trip out here at like 2:08 one time, and Roger had us all run that right side. In my kayak, if I'm running the pillow, I don't stop in that eddy that I showed you. I just kind of run straight into it. Whether I'm coming through the time warp or through the rifle barrel, I do the same thing, and then just ride it off to the left there. And you don't want to get pushed too far left in that curtain of water. That's a really powerful, nasty void there. There's another really cool line from that eddy where the rifle barrel and the time warp come together. I saw Chuck and John running this one. I think it's called double clutch. It kind of shoots you right through if you do it right, but it's real tricky. This was my first time trying it. I didn't really know what the line was. I just thought I could go over there and figure it out, and I just got swallowed in the seam. But then Chuck talked me through it, and I got it better my next time. Another option is to start out the same way as that time warp line, but instead of turning right for the time warp slot, you stay left. This is the race line. I almost never run this line. I was too far right on this drop right here, and I kind of landed on a rock. It was a little ugly, but then you just stay left, kind of where that double clutch line shoots you out at the bottom. And I like the other lines better, but that is the fastest way through the rapid. After Heinzerling, there's this big hole right here, and then if you stay left around this island, there's a rapid called Boulder Dancer. It's like a lot of rocks in there, some zigzagging back and forth, but it's pretty open. Like if it looks like you can go somewhere, you probably can. Fun little rapid, just bobbing and weaving. Nothing special, but I enjoy it. Down at the bottom, I like to kind of come through this middle slot here and then kind of turn right and, into this pool. Below Heinzerling, if you go right after that big hole around the other side of the island, they call the rapid on that side the offset ledges. I'd actually forgotten that this was even over here. I'd only run it a few times, I think, and So I decided I'd go over there and give it another try. I ran it a couple times, and it was actually super fun. This one, you just kind of want to aim for the little, like, the void and the ledge there, and then get pulled over to the right for the next ledge, and then, yeah, then the next one is kind of like down the center, a little like kind of zigzaggy move between the rocks. But yeah, really cool line. You know, I feel like I should run that one a lot more often than I do. It's fun over there. So. Next rapid is called Meat Cleaver. This right entrance is full of wood right now, but honestly, I like the other entrance at least as well anyway. Just kind of like moving to the right, boofing, and then kind of getting ready for this cross current here and lining up between these two rocks in the bottom drop. Short, but fun little rapid. After a Meat Cleaver, there's a few pretty forgettable rapids, Rocky 1, Rocky 2, and Rocky 3. Rocky 1, Chuck and Roger have a little slalom move that they do over on the far left here, and they can turn on a dime coming around this rock right here. They always lose me at this move right there. I can't figure out how they do it that fast, and Roger used to do it like that in a tornado as well, so pretty wild. Rocky 2, I like to run down the right-hand side over here. It's like closer quarters if you run it down the right, but you know, it's still nothing that's especially tricky going on over there. Compared to a lot of the other stuff on this river. And then right up here, I turn back to the left. You can stay right down there if you want to, but it's really scrapey over there at these flows, so I don't stay over there unless the water's higher. There's a boof in Rocky 3. It's a pretty nice boof at higher water, but at these flows, it just feels like you're scraping your boat for not much gain. After the Rockies, there's a rapid called Powerful Popper. Rocky 2, Rocky 3, and Powerful Popper kind of flow right into each other. It almost feels like one long rapid. Powerful Popper's pretty chill at the top, but down at the bottom there's like a narrow gap between some rocks, and there's a few lines you can take in this area. They're all fun. I like that boof right there. That's a pretty nice one. That gap to the left of the boof is pretty good too. I've heard people call that one the death slot, but I don't think it's because it's especially dangerous. I think it's just because the name sounds cool. And then you can also, like, if you stay far right up next to this rock on the right here, there's a different boof you can do right there. I don't know. They're all fun lines. Right after Powerful Popper, there's this nice gentle surf hole right here. You can spin around in this all day if you want to. It's pretty easy to stay in and pretty soft. Next rapid's called Lost and Found. Somebody actually died under this rock over here. They fell out of a raft and ended up under there. Pretty nasty spot. It was plugged with other rocks for many years, but I've heard those have washed out. I always take this right line over here. There's more water over there. We used to run left in our rafts all the time, but the guides who are still there tell me that line isn't really, they don't really run that anymore. I guess the rapid's changed or something. There's this hole down at the bottom of the rapid as well. That's a pretty sticky hole called Phil's Hole. Just a little ways downstream, like at the end of the next corridor, there's a rapid called Cheeseburger Falls. There's a few different ways to enter this one. I like to go left of this buffalo-looking rock up here. Most people I know, though, go right of it. Not many people go over here, but I just like to go this way and then weave around it. There's a really fun boof up here. It's tricky to line up. If you're just a little too far to the left, you slide off to the left. If you're a little too far to the right, your boat drops out from under you, but really fun if you line it up right. There's a really cool attainment in this rapid as well. You can get all the way back up to the bottom of that big boof. Sometimes I stop at that intermediate eddy there in this one, but you have to get all the way over to the attainer's right side of the river anyway, so you know, if I'm not going right for that eddy, I just kind of keep on going right. This next move here, it's not too hard to get to that eddy in the middle, but the key is to carry your momentum from that first move into this next one. This move right here is the hardest one of them all. It's all about angle and effort, and it just gets even harder if you stop at that eddy in the middle and then try to do it from a dead stop. The next couple moves in here are pretty, just kind of ferrying and climbing up eddies, nothing too difficult, so I'm speeding it up a little bit. Then this move here is another really good one. It's kind of like you gotta lean one way then the other way and just like keep on driving into it. Sometimes it feels like you're high enough, but you just get pushed right back down it. But you will probably get turned to the right like this, but just keep on paddling. And then some more ferrying and climbing up eddies. And I like to go all the way to the bottom of the Cheeseburger Falls drop, and I like to touch that thing just because, you know, I don't usually do this attainment, but it just takes a lot of effort, and like if you miss that second move, the hardest one, it puts you all the way back to the beginning, and so it's really deflating if that happens a few times. But actually getting to the top of this is super rewarding, like really, really cool. Next trap is called Backender. I like doing this zigzaggy entrance move here. I just think it's fun. People like to do pop-ups in that water right there sometimes. Then I usually enter on the left here. You can stay center for a while longer and then move left if you want. It doesn't really matter. And then coming down the left side, I just try to do a few boofs in here. Like it's hard to get really good boofs off these things, but I just kind of try to boof everything I can in here because it's something to do in the rapid. Not one of the harder rapids on the upper Yough or anything, but it's a fun one. And then one more boof at the bottom here, and then in this last drop, like it's pretty easy to get pushed into the eddy on the left, like kind of skirting between like either taking too much of that hole or ending up in the eddy on the left is tricky. After Backender, there's some stuff without names. I liked this rock spin right here, and then there's another move I like this thing over here, kind of like weaving between these rocks here, trying to carry my momentum, and then like sort of ferrying out a little bit so I don't scrape over those rocks. Right after that move is a rapid called Wright's Hole. It basically is just one hole. At these flows, it's not too bad. You can just kind of like punch it anywhere. Last named rapid on the river is Double Pencil Sharpener. You're just kind of weaving between these two holes here, and it's pretty fun, but pretty straightforward. There's this surf hole right below the rapid. I usually skip this one. I just feel like there's better options on this river. Then you got the cool down rapids. There's still some really fun moves in here. And there's some really nice surfs too. Like right after this pool here, there's a hole that I learned is Kendall Hole, but about 10 or 15 years ago, some of the paddlers started calling it Dead Cat, and that name seems to have stuck. The surfers right river left side is kind of sticky. You can side surf in there. You can spin kind of where the sticky part meets the wave. I like trying to spin around up higher on the wave. I feel like that's more fun. Eventually you'll pass this distinctive looking feature here. It's called the fall hole. Next rapid after the fall hole has another surf that I really like. It doesn't look like much. It's a pretty small hole, but it spins you around really good in a creek boat. Anyway, the river gets easier and easier from there. Eventually you'll go under some bridges that are way high up above you. This one first, and then the double interstate bridge. And then once you go under this little short bridge here, your takeout is on the left right after that red building. And that's the upper Yough.